We're live, Chair.
We're live. Thank you very much. Before we actually begin the meeting, we'd just like to acknowledge the death of a very long-standing licensing officer, Mr. Fred Spriggs. Emma would like to just say a few words.
It is with a heavy heart we share the news of the passing of Fred Spriggs, a beloved and valuable colleague and friend in the licensing department here at Herefordshire Council. We extend our deepest sympathies to Fred's family and friends during this difficult time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Emma. I would also like to add as Chair that Fred was a very valuable source of advice, and we are lucky indeed to have his son, who is also following in Fred's footsteps as a licensing officer. Right, we'll now begin the meeting. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Before I formally start the meeting, I confirm that this meeting is being held in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003 and the Licensing Act Hearing Regulations 2006, which allow councils to make their own arrangements for licensing subcommittees to hear matters in connection with the premises licence. I'll begin by introducing the subcommittee members and officers who will be present throughout the meeting. I'm the Chair, Councillor Andrews. To my left, we have Councillor Peter Hamlin and Councillor Dave Davis. To my right, we have our legal advisor, also Mr. Davis, but they're not related. And the clerk to our committee is Mr. Evans, who is online today. We have no apologies for absence, and there are no substitutions. Are there any interest, gentlemen, to be declared?
No, Chair.
Thank you. We are here for a review of the premises licence in respect of Out to Grass, Wood End Farm, Cradley, WR135JW, Licensing Act 2003. And the purpose is to consider an application for a review of premises licence in respect of Out to Grass, Wood End Farm, Cradley, Herefordshire, WR135JW. The order of speakers, first and foremost, will be Emma Bowell on behalf of the Licensing Authority, and then the Environment and Health, Ms. Elizabeth Loughland. We'll start with those. Emma.
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendations are that the subcommittee determine the application with a view to promote the licensing objectives in the overall interest of the local community. It should give appropriate weight to the steps that are appropriate to promote those licensing objectives. Representations, including any supporting information presented by all parties. The guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2020 to 2025. And the reasons for these recommendations that ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. There are a number of options open to the committee in relation to this review. A, the modification of the conditions of the premises licence. B, the exclusion of any licensable activities from the scope of the licence. C, to specify in the licence anyone is the premises supervisor. D, the suspension of the licence for a period not exceeding 3 months. Or E, the revocation of the licence. Where the licensing authority takes a step mentioned in bullet points A, B and D, it may provide that the modification, exclusion or suspension is to have effect for only such period not exceeding 3 months as it may specify. Alternatively, it is open to the licensing authority to determine that no action is required to promote the licensing objectives or issue an informal warning in writing to the licence holder and or recommend improvements within a specified period of time. The licensing authority must take into account any relevant representations made. And relevant representations are those that relate to one or more of the licensing objectives, have not been withdrawn and are made by the premise licence holder, a responsible authority or an interested party. The details of the application are as follows. The applicant is Environmental Health, there is a responsible authority. They received a review on the 2nd of February 26. The 28-day consultation started on the 3rd of February 26 and ended 28 days later on the 2nd of March 26. The application for review is attached to Appendix 1. Copies of the application were sent to the premise licence holder and all responsible authorities. Environmental Health's grounds for review are: Environmental Health have concerns regarding the site, the noise nuisance and the current licence suitability to meet the licensing objective, the prevention of public nuisance. A bit about the premises history. The premises was first licensed in January 2013. Since being licensed, the Licensing Authority has received one application to vary the Designated Premises Supervisor, shortened to the DPS, which was granted in January 2016. On the 30th of July 22, the Licensing Authority were in receipt of a letter sent by the Duty Officer of Environmental Health, stating that on the 20th of July 22 at 23:38 p.m, their nighttime noise team witnessed amplified music emanating from the premises, which was excessive in volume, and that type of noise can amount to statutory nuisance, which the Environmental Protection Act of 1990 legislation is designed to control. The letter is found at Appendix 3. The current licence at Appendix 2 authorises the following licensable activities shown: live and recorded music, both indoors and outdoors, Sunday to Thursday, midday till midnight, Friday and Saturday, midday until 2 a.m. Late night refreshments, indoors and outdoors, Sunday to Thursday, 11 p.m. until midnight, Friday to Saturday, 11 p.m. until 2 a.m. Sale and supply of alcohol, consumption on and off the premises, Sunday to Thursday, midday until 11 p.m. and Friday to Saturday, midday until 1 a.m. Non-standard timings is an additional 2 hours at the end of permitted hours on Christmas Eve and Boxing Day, if these fall on another day than a Saturday. An additional 2 hours at the end of permitted hours on the Sunday of bank holiday weekends, from the end of permitted hours on New Year's Eve until the commencement of permitted hours on New Year's Day. And also an additional hour at the end of permitted hours on the day British summertime begins. The licence is also subject to certain conditions that the premises has to comply with when open for licensable activities. The committee should also note light refreshment is only applicable between the hours of 11 p.m. until 5 a.m. Monday to Sunday. So circumstances leading to the review. The Environmental Health Department has raised concerns in respect of public nuisance relating to music events held at the premises, and in particular the bass levels, which are clearly audible in the general area and vicinity of the premises. Due to the bold topography of the land surrounding the premises and the very quiet rural location of the premises, complaints have been received in the immediate locality and further afield, especially later into the evenings. The out-of-hours noise team have witnessed bass music audible outside and inside local residents' properties. These were witnessed on the 20th of July 25 at 00:40 a.m, the 26th of July 25 at 23:11 p.m, the 30th of August 25 at 23:14 p.m, and the 5th of September 25 at 23:50 p.m. A number of noise complaints from local residents were also reported. The current licence conditions were originally agreed in 2013, when it was understood the site would hold 2 main music events, one in May and the other in September. The number of music events have since intensified, with increased considerably. The site is now operating as an event festival, glamping, camping site, with events taking place most weekends over the extended summer months of April to September. There has been a long history of noise complaints, subsequent investigation actions and enforcement action carried out in relation to music events held at this premises. Noise abatement notices were served in 2001, 2015 and 2025. And as a result of the continued noise complaints, this review was launched by Environmental Health. There are no representations received from the responsible authorities. 7 representations were received from members of the public that the Licensing Authority has accepted as being relevant. Representations state noise issues arising from the premises on more than one occasion, and those can be found at Appendix 4. 97 letters of support for the premises were received within the consultation period. The letters of support largely relate to members of the public attending events and are surprised that there have been complaints about noise. That's found at Appendix 5. To be considered a relevant and complete representation, a representation must include a name and address. One representation was received from a member of the public and deemed not relevant by the Licensing Authority. A member of the public failed to supply contact details and did not respond to the request to do so within the consultation period. 5 letters of support were received outside the consultation period, therefore cannot be accepted but have been placed on file for future reference. The decision of the Licensing Committee on the 23rd of March 26 was the application was heard before the Licensing Committee on the 23rd of March 26, where a determination could not be made as a subcommittee decided a site visit would be required to help with their decision making. The site visit took place on the 9th of April 26 at 14:30 p.m. and the reconvened hearing is taking place today. Any decision made may have an impact on the local community. There are environmental impacts, equality duties and legal implications set out in this report that your legal advisor can advise on further if required. There are unlikely to be any financial implications for the council as a licensing authority at this time. There is a right of appeal under Schedule 5, Part 1, Paragraph 8 of the Licensing Act 2003. Appeals should be made to the Magistrates Court and must be made within 21 days, beginning with a day on which the appellant was notified by the licensing authority of the decision appealed against. There is little risk associated with the decision at this time, as the legislation allows for that right of appeal to Magistrates Court. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire have been consulted. Appendices 1 to 5 were found at the back of this report, also annexes 1, 2, 3 and 4. And 4 supplements have been produced and published since the report has been published. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And just to confirm, the only complaints have been raised on simply noise. There are no other complaints of any description. It's just noise.
I think Environmental Health would be best placed to answer that, Chair.
Committee, any?
I think not at this stage.
No, thank you. Right, we will pass on to Environmental Health. Elizabeth Lofton. Right.
Thank you. During this presentation, we'll be playing some sound clips, so we'll have to switch.
Your assistance to help.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So Environmental Health have called this review on the Out to Grass licensed premises due to ongoing and escalating concerns regarding noise nuisance issues arising from music events held on the site. Since the licence was issued in 2013, where the current conditions were required, the venue has grown from hosting occasional festivals a year, one in May and one in September, to now operating as a private hire venue and festival site nearly every weekend through the summer months, with expanding camping and glamping facilities. I have acted as the case officer and case manager in this investigation of noise complaints, monitoring, advising and enforcement matters relating to Out to Grass premises since 2015. Initially in my previous role as Environmental Health and now as a regulatory service manager. I have worked in Herefordshire Council, a qualified environmental health officer for 27 years, and I've worked as an environmental health. I have an environmental degree, a diploma in acoustics and noise control. So I am acting as the noise expert for the council as well as the environmental health officer. Out to Grass noise issues. As such, I've been aware of a long history of noise complaints, subsequent investigations, advice and enforcement actions relating to music events held at Out to Grass premises. As is exhibited in our exhibits number 4, there's been a total of 38 requests for investigation from 8 different residential properties. I will note that that's 8 requests for investigation. It isn't 8 individual events of noise complaints. 38, sorry. There's each request for investigation will have multiple potentially notes of complaints being made.
So you're saying that what you're saying is that these are 8 different
8 different premises that have made 38 requests over this time to investigate noise, where there might be multiple issues of noise within each of those requests. Statute nuisance. During this time, the overall management of the site has been controlled by Ian Johnson, who is the current DPS holder. Statutory noise being witnessed by officers of the council on 3 separate occasions, resulting in the service of abatement notices on 2001, 2015 and the latest 2025. Although there's been periods of short-term improvement or breaks in events, such as during the COVID pandemic and again in 2024, noise issues have repeatedly emerged, with the bass beat being the predominant source of noise disturbance with little to no improvement. Out to Grass is a 5-acre site located within 44 acres of rewilding land, situated in a rural location as is exhibited in the exhibit map 6, exhibit 6. The site is an outdoor venue festival site with music being played in 2 relatively small geodome structures, a fixed marquee style structure. These being the main entertainment structures with limited sound attenuation, straw bales, noise barriers on one side of the structure. Additional external entertainment areas are detailed for occasional use. As such, it is identified there is little to no attenuation property of the music entertainment area on site. Change in structure was seen yesterday in yesterday's visit, however, only to the part enclosed with a 15mm plyboard. By the spherical propagation of the nature of noise comes out like that. The top area won't be attenuated by this additional cladding. This creates spherical. Also, the other issue being that it's a low frequency wave that is causing the problem, which is a huge wave. So it is anticipated that sound attenuation will have minimum effect to the noise levels heard off site. Background noise levels are very quiet in the area, and these become notably quieter in the late evening and night time. The duration of the typical music events is generally over several days, mainly Thursday to Sunday. I think probably Friday to Sunday is the predominant ones. This creates a noise impact through the day and late into evenings on the general area and neighbourhood over these days. So we have notification of the site events that were listed. So in 2023, events lists Exhibit 01, there were 18 planned weekends across 51 days. This was noted to be significant noise concerns during that year. In 2024, there were only 8 planned weekends over 24 days. We didn't have any complaints, and we think that probably a lot of those didn't take place anyway. In 2025 events listing, there was Exhibit 3. There were 17 planned weekends over 51 days with, again, as we're here today, because of a significant noise nuisance issues. The time span for the festival is usually May to mid-September, which spans over 21 weekends. The history of complaints and previous identified noise nuisance and particular concerns from witnessed noise events in 23 led to a full investigation over the summer of 2025. The finding results we have served an abatement notice and has resulted in us calling this review. The findings of the investigations are as follows. So to assess noise, you have to have a general idea of the background readings, what the levels are like without the noise. So we did do some background readings in 2023, and we don't believe the area has changed significantly since then. The background levels without the noise from out to grass in the evening, around about nearly 11 o'clock, 2240, was found to be 26 dB. That's L90. So in 2023 we did have issues, and we have got a sound clip of one of the bases. This sound clip is exhibit. All the sound clips are exhibit 25, and this is number 2 of that exhibit. And this is outside Hook Lane residential property.
Sorry, it's because
Hours it'll come through.
So what did you say?
You can mute your laptop in the bottom corner.
Right.
At the on the Teams.
Oh. Just to clarify, when it played, this was recorded outside a residential property.
This one was recorded outside the residential property at Hook Lane in 2023 on the 7th of the 7th, 23 at 22:54.
What is that on the map?
So that
D.
Muted. Share.
so
Include sound.
click on that, yeah.
Yeah.
And double click on that. So this is a thumping bass beat that's outside somebody's house that was at 10 o'clock, at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock at night.
But would be occurring through the whole of the day to varying levels of intensity. When you look at background levels, that was the LAEQ was 17.5 above dB. When you're looking at nuisance with regards to industrial noise, 10 dB above background is classed as a significant impact and is equal to double the loudness of the sound if it goes up by 10 dB. So that's 17 above background. During that year, advice letters were sent, requested visits to discuss. Unfortunately, Mr. Johnson left the country before the visit on his annual 6-month stay abroad before the meeting could be arranged. In 2024, the complaint that there was no complaints.
So we're now in 2025.
So now 2025. We received a request for noise investigation. Out to Grass Noise Music Events has been experiencing noise the last years, happening again. Last few years, this is happening again. So that's on the 10th of July, 2025. We were running our out of hours noise team in July and August. So we did some routine monitoring. On the 20th of the 7th, 2025, outside the residence of Hook Lane, there was a sound clip, which is number 5, where the bass is clearly audible thumping over the muffled talking. Can you play that one?
At what time was it?
That was
At what time was this recorded?
10 to 1 in the morning.
10 to 1 a.m. Can you read?
Feedback again.
It's not, the mic's not on. From what I can see anyway, sorry.
Be an issue with the speaker. Do you move on to the next?
Can you replay it? Is it possible, please, so that we can, if this was the noise at 10 to 1.
I can only get the sound to come through if I turn my mic on.
So we have to be quiet for us to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
And the loud.
Feedback in the room.
Yeah. But that was not the level heard at the house, was it?
Not the feedback of it, no. If you be quiet, you can hear.
It was just starting to come in there, but it was just starting to play. It's, do you want to try it one more time? That one?
Could you please? Yes. We need to be. So that would be the actual level that you heard.
Well, we can't say that. We are not representing what we heard out here because it's really impossible to do that. You've got huge sound waves. You have to be in the environment to feel it, but that's a representation of what the sound was.
Right, thank you.
As you can see, at some points, the bass does stop and it becomes a lot less intrusive. And as soon as then the bass kicks in, there's no guessing that there's music playing, and it's very distracting and intrusive on your thoughts and your being in that area. It becomes the dominant sound, and it creates a thumping sound, not just audible thump, but actual physical thump on your body because of the size of these waves. You know, we're talking about it's usually around the 30 to 50 to 63 hertz, which can be up to 7 meters long. So we're talking about huge waves, the juggernauts of sound. So that was outside somebody's residential property. Again, that was at just 10 to 1 in the morning, but this is likely to have occurred, you know, I haven't got the exact details of how long that event was going on, but they definitely go on through the afternoon into the late evening.
Have you got comparisons between inside and outside the property?
We've got one now. The next one is inside the property. So again, you know, we're not representing what it is. We're not sitting in the room feeling what the residents are feeling, because there's a huge wave sound that's coming in from much bigger speakers than that. What happens is with low frequency bass, it becomes as much a physical response as an audio response. And when in your room and you've got that beat going, your body automatically tenses up, and you can actually feel as if somebody's tapping on your ear. And in some of these, I don't know if we've got time to go through all of them, but you know, this is quite a good representation. On some of them, it feels like the room actually has a heartbeat. So it feels like the bass is, so it's not loud, but it's there. And when the music breaks, your whole body automatically goes like that. And then when it starts up again, it's out of your control, you instantly tense up. So it is as much a physical effect of the low frequency noise as audio inside the house, but you would not be able to sleep. The longer you're in that room, the longer you're exposed to it, the more it becomes intrusive and dominant and causes anxiety as well as that stress. So that's what we're dealing with this noise complaint.
Thank you.
So on the 24th of July 2025, sent a warning letter to Mr. Johnson advising of excessive volume and requesting that he reviews the matter to bring the bass, particularly the bass volume, down. I enclosed a statutory nuisance leaflet and event noise management guidance to assist with this. And I reconfirmed that we would be wanting to visit on the 30th of July to discuss the matter. This letter was sent by email. These are exhibits 12, 13, 14 and 15. So on the 26th of July, we had another nighttime noise team out, and we could clearly hear at the gate, the reception of Out to Grass, the noise. So can we play that one for you? So this is outside, you know, when you turn into Out to Grass, and you're going down just between the gate and the car parked area at that top end. So that would be at that location.
Okay.
So some of these clips you have to play it a little longer because sometimes it's quiet and then the bass kicks in, and I'm not sure if that's that one. I think there's a louder bass that kicks in.
Turn it back on.
Lovely then.
Stood at the gate, so we're observing that there is an event taking place at Out to Grass at that point. And then we went to the riding centre on that same night. So that was at just 11:10 in the evening. Then we went out to where the riding centre is, which is it the Ridgeway, the houses that, under the first group of houses before you get to out to Grass, those houses there, that was in that area. In that area you could hear trumpet tunes, drums, clearly audible, rumbling, bass, beat. This one was slightly more unusual in the fact that you could actually hear tunes and you could make out the tunes in this one, but again, not loud, but the beat was there.
Time?
That was just after that one recording, and that was at 23:18, that one. So on the 27th of July, received another request for noise investigation from different premises, reporting that Out to Grass noise music has been causing significant disturbance over the last 5 weekends.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? I just played the wrong clip. I apologise. So I'm just going to play. I played number 10 instead of number 7, so I apologise for that.
Which one is this?
This is one which should have been at the gate.
At the gate.
Apologies for that. That was just the
First kicking in there. The bass.
Sorry about that. So just to confirm, that was a clip from the 26th of the 7th, 2025 at 11:10.
At the gate. So at that point, the music was playing, and then the bass kicked in just after that. So I don't know if you got that from that sound clip. Which was a very almighty sound with a dominance in the area. You know, that was obviously there's an event.
I appreciate I get an opportunity of saying something later. I'm going to make comments about these clips, and it may be easier if I make them as we go along rather than at the end. I'm entirely in your hands, but I just want to flag that one clip now, if you can remember that, because that was the sound recording was done through the gate where there were no residential.
We note your comment.
Yeah, we did it from there to confirm that there was an event at Out to Grass.
Right, that's fine.
And to give the full picture of how much noise is coming out of the premises. So, so on the 27th, we received a complaint saying over the last 5 weekends, and then received another complaint from another resident on the same day, the 27th of July, saying that Out to Grass noise from events since mid-July, Saturday night and Sunday night from 5 PM to 1 AM, disturbing family, including baby. So on the 30th of July 2025, myself and a colleague did conduct a site visit to Out to Grass, where we were, where Mr. Johnson, Claire Kelly, the site manager, and Andrew Bayliss were present to discuss noise concerns particularly regarding the base levels, the duration of the events, and the number of events. Mr. Johnson had just hired the noise consultant to advise on the noise issues. He felt it was just one complaint throughout the meeting. Mr. Johnson kept referring back to it was one complainant being a troublemaker. I did advise that we had more than one complainant from different premises, and that the noise had actually been witnessed independently by officers of the council and had been identified to be a noise nuisance. Mr. Johnson continued to blame his one neighbour and appeared to deny that he had any issues with his music events. He did become very agitated, and we did a site visit after that, and Mr. Johnson didn't accompany us, but Claire Kelly and Andrew Bayliss did.
The complaints are coming from different sources.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we did a tour around the site, which are the photographs that I exhibited in Exhibit 5, which shows the geodomes. We're not going to show these today because you did the site visit, so I thought we don't need to see those.
You don't need to see them. We saw the geodomes yesterday.
So on the 2nd of August, out of hours visit on the 23:20, there was clear skies. It was fine. It was quite warm. All quiet. No activities. So that was nice. On the 14th of August, email to Mr. Johnson confirming information discussed at the meeting on 30 and requested information from Out to Grass. As was promised, the noise levels that they had taken, they were going to send us those. I also made confirmation of some information that he'd requested from us, such as the number of noise complaints. That email is in Exhibit 16. Email received from Mr. Johnson with a link to noise management document. It's actually not from Mr. Johnson, it's from Claire Kelly. A link to noise management documents that were sent. These documents, there was a number of documents, some not relating to noise. The noise ones were in draft and missing the key noise control elements that we would be looking for. It was just read it up to be confirmed. Then on the 30th of August, the out of hours officers did make a visit to the area at 23:14. This time they only did go outside by Hook Lane, and there was some bass noise audible. It was quite windy, breezy. It was
outside of. This was outside of one of the premises of.
Yes, this was Hook Lane one. Yes. I did note that from the notes that the main complainant had said the noise was there this weekend, but not a problem. But so we did note that there was some noise there. I know that's now under dispute, but you could hear a clear bass coming through the breeze. So that one might be in dispute to whether it was. We did not do a site confirmation visit to the Out to Grass on that one. On the 3rd of September, received emails from Mr. Johnson dealing where there was going to be detailing there was a new noise consultant. Still no noise monitoring information provided. On the 5th of September, we carried out another visit, and this time that was myself that was there as well as Jade. So we were at on this out of hours visit. We arrived at 23:44. We took a sound clip from outside the Out to Grass premises, which is loud dominant bass music with muffled music. Sounds like music from 2 stages were going. The noise above background was plus 23, so it's over 23 decibels above background on that one. I don't know if you want to go. I think we've got an essence of that. Unless you want to hear these, I'm just going to run into
I presume it's similar in nature to the ones we've heard already.
This is the one where we then finally established, because we've done the advisement that there is a statutory nuisance. So this is the one that we finally said, well, we've got to go down the statutory nuisance level with this one. So at Hook Lane, again, we stood outside the property. There was a rumbling baked bees with muffled people noise and intermittent music sound. A heavy bass and electronic bass rumble of music was the dominant sound in the area. This was plus 16 above background. In the bedroom this is at 23:57 of the property on Hook Lane. The window was slightly open for ventilation, which is permitted on noise measurements. There was a clearly audible bass beat with muffled music in the background. My observations was inside this property, the bass level was clearly audible. The bass beat dominant, people just audible in the background. You could feel the bass beat as well as hear it. Loud dominant thumping, fast drum, and then booming bass and bass drops. So the character of music builds up, and then you have a boom, and then it stops. So you're living this music both physically and audibly in the room. It's a very quiet room, and if this is where the room felt like the room had a heartbeat in the room. When the music stopped in its intermittent breaks, you relaxed, and then it started up again when it came on. So
And this was What time was that again?
That was at 23:57.
Nearly that midnight.
Yes, and we would have stayed on. That was the start of the sound recording, so we'd have stayed on till after midnight on that. So on the then the next day, more sound officers went out on the out of hours noise, and they took readings from the gate. Again, heavy bass, dominant sound of people
This is at the
shouting.
gate.
This is at the gate. Yes, sorry.
Just conscious of
I know,
time
yeah.
on this, so if we've exceeded the 20 minutes, we'll have to, so if you just need to be mindful of time and.
The gate, it's the housing, the
Yeah.
residency that we're interested in, not the gate.
Yeah.
Well,
Is the gate by where Mr Johnson lives? Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about? Yeah, I know.
Yes.
We know where it is.
we
Yeah.
need to confirm that the music is coming from that site, and that's why that is significant that we say that, because it's no other site that's coming from. The noise relates to the music from that site.
We move to key points, I think, is what.
Yes.
Of time.
Okay, so abatement was served on 24th of October, and on the 12th of November, Mr Johnson was sent a further email confirming stat nuisance. Exhibit 10, we did request for him to contact us and discuss the licence and conditions, and said that we considered this review, would want to discuss it. We didn't have any discussions, no contact from that. We've tried everything we can we've tried everything we can to avoid having to come to this licensing review. We've tried every means of communications, advice, leaflets, meetings, and obviously enforcement action with the notice over the many years, and we're still not seeing any improvement. So we felt that there was no other alternative other than to bring this to the committee to consider.
Thank you very much. Anything happening?
Sorry, yes. Have you seen, well, you saw the site yesterday with us, yeah. The items of mitigation that are being undertaken, do you think that they will make any difference? And secondly, when you took the sound readings, at what stage has the development of that reached? Had any of it been done?
We took the sound readings last year, so the site did not have that part enclosed plyboard boarding that you saw. It was the marquee structure, and there was the other marquee structure, the geodomes.
Yeah.
So that was as it was. It's pretty much a marquee structure. The plyboard, I mean, low frequency noise goes through walls of nightclubs, and they have to strictly control their noise levels. So to have a 18 mil plyboard with the open exposed, so when the noise comes out like this, it's only protecting the noise immediately stood outside going out. Potentially it could cause some reverberation in there and intensify the noise going out the top. I don't know. I'd be very surprised if it had any impact on the low frequency noise due to the nature of the size of the waves and the intensity of that wave as it comes out of there, and the lack of any kind of attenuation. You need substance, you need mass to stop.
Did I hear you say that the top surface of the dome wasn't?
It's not flat. But I asked that.
We need to know whether that is going to be.
I asked that yesterday, and they said no, it wasn't.
No, we'll go to.
Okay, I think that's me.
Councillor Davis.
Is it presumed then that the whole issue here is the low level noise, it's the bass sound that's causing all the angst amongst local residents?
Yes, if you took the bass noise out, it would be, as is reported,
Acceptable.
a very quiet, a quiet venue,
Very
generally.
acceptable.
Yes.
Right.
That's interesting. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So I missed that last comment.
If you took the bass noise away out of the situation, it would become a very quiet venue, she said.
Yes.
It would become an acceptable.
It would be at an
On the
acceptable,
whole, as it is
acceptable,
now, yes.
acceptable level. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not at this stage.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that.
So can I just clarify that I'm assuming that point, but until it's gone, I can't fully tell.
No,
But it is definitely the bass.
The bass
Is the most impactful and
on the local
distressing,
residents.
yes,
Right.
and causing distress and anxiety.
I
Thank you.
noticed that there was a raised bit of a bank had been built on the site side
The
of,
side.
of Ellis's property at Hook Lane. Has that been done since, or was that done previously as well? There's a ridge.
That's been there for a few years and
Okay.
yes,
So it's not relevant.
no.
Right. Any other questions? No, right, thank you very much. Right. We will now move on to Mr. Moorhead, who is a local resident. Mr. Moorhead, can you hear him?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Fantastic. Chair, members of the subcommittee, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Chris Moorhead and I am speaking on behalf of my father, who is one of the residents affected by the noise from Out to Grass. Just by way of context, I am the events and projects manager for a large licensed outdoor events venue, so I understand the realities of licensing, event operations and noise management. I am clearly not opposed to events, nor unaware of their benefits, but those benefits do not remove the obligation to protect neighbouring residents from public nuisance. My contribution to the hearing today is based purely on the documentary evidence and the concerns raised. I must make one thing very, very clear. This is not an objection to camping, weddings, rural enterprise or music in principle. It is about whether the current licence and the way this premises has been operated are properly promoting the licensing objective of prevention of public nuisance. This is not an isolated issue nor a recent misunderstanding. Environmental health records recurring complaints over many years, which we have been through. This is a repeated pattern, not a one-off. Crucially, this case does not rest only on neighbour opinion. It is supported by the council's own officers. Environmental health have repeatedly made out-of-hours visits. Those visits repeatedly recorded music and bass from the site in the surrounding area, outside homes, and in some cases inside neighbouring properties, as you've heard. The records describe, for example, a heavy thumping bass beat, audible inside a room, rhythmic heavy bass beat, audible inside in July of last year, and further bass intrusion inside of homes in September 2025. That is quite powerful evidence of nuisance. The scale and the frequency of the operation also matter. Environmental health says the current conditions were originally considered in 2013, when the main proposed activity was 2 weekend music festivals a year. As you've heard, the business model has significantly changed and the site operates mainly as a private function festival site across the summer months. The schedules in the papers show substantial event activity in recent years. In a quiet rural setting, duration and frequency are central to nuisance. The licence holder has very recently submitted new documents ahead of this hearing, including a revised site plan, a further updated operating schedule, and a noise complaints comparison. I do want to address these directly. Firstly, the revised site plan narrows the licensed area. While the boundaries may change, nuisance is determined by the actual impact at neighbouring homes. The history of complaints and officer evidence relates to the operation as experienced by local residents, not just a footprint on a map. Secondly, the updated operating schedule proposes more conditions and some alignment with environmental health's language. Okay, but the core issue remains. The operator is still seeking permission for a number of event days far above environmental health's recommendations. Environmental health's own submissions continue to find these proposals insufficient, and their position seems to be, to me, quite clear. The number and frequency of events must be limited to prevent public nuisance. Thirdly, the Out to Grass noise complaints comparison tries to undermine the complaint history by suggesting many complaints are irrelevant or unsubstantiated. I do acknowledge that not every complaint may be directly attributable, but environmental health officer evidence and abatement notices are based on direct observations, not just resident reports. The pattern of nuisance is confirmed by environmental health's own monitoring. Fourthly, Out to Grass cites the National Licensing Policy Framework to argue for light touch regulation and graduated enforcement. I would argue graduated enforcement has already been tried here. Warnings, meetings, abatement notices, they've all been issued, yet we are still here in this meeting. Finally, Out to Grass now includes language about appointing appropriate noise control experts for the noise management plan. But the effectiveness of noise management depends on actual outcomes, not just 11th hour plans or promises. Environmental Health's position is that the noise management plan must involve a genuinely independent and qualified specialist and must be judged by its results at neighbouring homes. Environmental Health also says the site sits in a quiet, rural and tranquil area, especially at night, and the typical music played is loud, amplified music with heavy drum and bass character, which fits exactly with the repeated officer observations that bass is the dominant intrusive feature, including inside homes. Environmental Health now says that taking all of this together, it has little to no confidence in the management of the site for controlling entertainment noise. That conclusion is based on the structures, the location, the type of music, the duration and the frequency of events, the changed business model, the very long history of complaints, and the fact that despite guidance, abatement notices, the problems have still persisted. And that's quite a serious conclusion, because it means this is no longer just a question of good intentions or promises of improvement. Environmental Health is effectively telling the committee that management assurances alone are not enough. Straw bales, speaker orientation, insulation panels, and room treatments, these are just tools. The issue for this committee is not what tools are now being proposed or promised. The issue is what results have been achieved at neighbouring homes. And the results already evidenced in the papers are repeated nuisance complaints, repeated officer observations, and bass heard inside residents' homes. I echo the sentiment that some plywood is not going to make much of a difference to very, very large bass frequency waves. This is also not a case where the operator lacked warning. The papers show a warning letter in July 2025, a follow-up site meeting on the 30th of July 2025, requests for proper noise management information, and then statutory nuisance abatement notices in October 2025, requiring Out to Grass to control volume and bass so that neighbouring properties were not materially interfered with. So this committee is not being asked to act too soon. It is being asked to respond after warnings, engagement, and formal enforcement. At the very least, the appropriate course now is the one proposed by Environmental Health, which in a nutshell is stronger enforceable conditions that reflect the evidence. This includes disapplying the Live Music Act of 2012, limiting amplified music entertainment to a set amount of days per year, with an additional limit on consecutive event days, and requiring a properly drafted noise management plan with suitable expert input, event-specific controls, monitoring, logging, and resident communication. So I respectfully ask the committee to act with Environmental Health's revised proposals in mind, so that neighbouring residents, instead of living next door to an experiment with a history of failure in terms of public nuisance, can finally have meaningful protection in their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me. Mr. Moorhead, family, did they actually complain at the time, ring up the site and complain about the noise at the time?
My father sent 3 emails.
He didn't actually telephone the site and say, reduce the noise at the time?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question confidently. I'm not sure is the answer to that.
Right, thank you. Committee, have you any questions you would like Mr. Moorhead to ask Mr. Moorhead?
No, just to say thank you. That was exceedingly helpful.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Right, we will now go to Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, who are also local residents. I think you're muted, Mr. Ellis. Can you unmute yourself? You're still muted.
See if I can do it. No, I can't. I need to take the microphone.
I'm afraid we can't hear you.
You click the microphone button at the top of the screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
You can hear me?
Yes.
please go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just here with my wife Nita, and my sort of statement to start with is we've lived at Tuck Lane for almost 17 years now, and essentially we've had noise problems from Outtergrass since the moment that we arrived here. We wanted to move to the countryside, so hence we moved to beautiful Herefordshire. This was to be our dream home, and as it's turned out, it's become something of a nightmare because due to the noise, we feel trapped here and we're unable to move on. We didn't realise at the time when moving that we were moving next to somebody who was putting on rave music events. If we'd have wanted to be near some sort of musical or have some sort of musical accompaniment, we could have moved to a city area. So I think what I'm trying to, it's a quiet countryside area and it's not suitable for these loud amplified music events that go on. Over the years, we've experienced various loud music and crowd noise concerned with these events. The worst being when the walls of our house were actually shaking and reverberating from the noise coming from Outtergrass, from the rave music on site there. When these events are taking place, we were unable to sleep in our bedroom. It's impossible. And we reverted to sleeping downstairs as it's a little quieter there. The noise is low frequency bass and drum, as I call it. These start at lunchtime on Fridays and go through to 2 AM the following morning. We then get the same again, starting on Saturday lunchtime, going on to 2 AM Sunday, and then again on the Sunday. So as you can see, it's not a very short or very small events. I was quite surprised when I saw the licensing allowance regarding the playing of live music. I mean, this is generally a very quiet countryside area. I was also surprised to see the hours that were allowed. I mean, noon seems extremely excessive for where we are living. The beat, as I'll title it, because that's what we often call it. When it happens, you firstly, as you get a physical experience of it, so it enters your body, yeah. And as Miss Laughlin said, it's like a heartbeat. You can feel it in your body. We then tend to get a slight lull because we've got a change of beat or whatever, and your body relaxes. But then the thump starts up again. It goes on all day and all night. That beat then gets into your head, so you're completely stressed. So you know what's coming for the whole weekend. Even when the beat has stopped, mentally, it's in your head and you hear it. You can actually hear it. If it's not being played, it's still live in your head. So it's a physical and mental torture. We're unable to stay in our garden. This was part of the idea of moving here. It's a beautiful garden in a beautiful area, but we simply shut ourselves away to lessen the impact of the noise. It's clear that the management of the site is unable, or dare I say unwilling, to control and eliminate the noise nuisance to its neighbours. We would like to sell our property after 17 years. However, I ask you, is it likely that anyone would buy the property based on the nearness of these rave events that go on? I read as well that there are at least or in excess of 90 positive responses to Out to Grass. Well, what I would say is it's pretty unlikely that people who go there to get their kicks, or who are paid performers, or who work there, are likely to say anything derogatory about the site. Its site is completely unsuitable for these music raves. As I stated, we're living in the middle of a beautiful and generally quiet Herefordshire countryside. In short, I feel no live, recorded or amplified music should be allowed to be performed or played on this site. Thanks. I'll hand you over to my wife just for a quick addition.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to talk. As John's just said, I'm his wife, and I just need to tell you the emotions that happened from April to September. As you can probably see and probably hear in my voice, I now suffer depression, and I am on medication for it because that beat gets into my head. And the thing is, I know it's happening, it's coming. So we've had the winter months, that thump gets into my body, and I'm physically shaking, and then it stops for a minute, and I say to my husband, has it stopped, has it stopped? I get it starts again. This depression and anxiety really cannot happen. We live on Hook Lane Cottage. If you look at the map, we are completely next door to him. We can't sleep. My brain can't function. So for a big part of our lives here, this is what we're going through. I'm completely exhausted, and it is complete torture. And I really hope that you can help us, because I can't go on with this, and I know it's going to start up again in May to September. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Can I ask again the same question I asked Mr. Moorhead? Have you at the time contacted during the concerts on music?
Yes. When we first moved here, we invited him over to come and have a cup of coffee, let's have a chat. And he was very polite, and he said, that's great. I've had previous complaints from this property, but they've never spoken to me directly. So we had his number, he had my number, he had John's number, and we all tried to have some kind of communication. Yeah. But what happens is the music starts and we give him a call, and he doesn't answer our call. If he does answer our call, he will then say, let me see what I can do. And the music might go down for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it's back up to a really high performance. The beat is enormous. We've been and visited him, and actually we did last year. We're trying to sell our house. Is this going to be happening now again? And he said that he was happy that we'd come over, but he gets quite agitated because he keeps telling me and my husband, he keeps telling us we're the only people that complain. He said, why don't you go away? Because everybody around here, they're all my friends, they all support me. It is just you two, and you need to go away. And that's so we really tried.
You've heard he says there's only one complainant, that's obviously us. And he's told us that when we've gone to talk to him, and we have talked to him, but we do find that he gives us lip service, and there's absolutely no result at the end of it. If we complain maybe, let us say, twice on the same day of the event, he may take our call or he may see us, and then he sort of goes into hiding. So nothing ever gets done.
And I know you asked Chris the question, did his father ever go over? We can answer it because we have met your dad, and he confirmed over, and he gets exactly the same. Okay, let me see what I can do. I'll try and turn it down, and then we all get the music go back up. I know local residents that we've spoken to that have been over to see him, and we've really tried to communicate to say, look, you know, that beat is getting into our heads and in our body, and we can't take it anymore.
Right, thank you. That's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Mr.
Committee, do you want to
That's on this bill. Thank you.
ask? Right, thank you very much.
Chair, Mr. Moore has got his hand up. I don't know if he wants to make any further.
Oh, Mr. Moorhead, did you want to come back and say something?
Just very quickly, yes, I can confirm that my father contacted the licence holder, Mr. Johnson, during one of the evening events, and was told that he can't turn the music down, but he will try.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Ellis. Right, we will now move on to premises licence holder representative. Mr. McGregor, I think you're the first one to speak.
Yes. I know that your process says that each side has 20 minutes. I'm going to be a little bit longer than 20 minutes, I'm afraid, but I'm not going to.
It's a matter of the
No, I'm sorry. 20 minutes is your time, and that's it.
Chair.
Sorry. Yes, but no.
Well, I listen. I will do my absolute best.
Do your best to keep it within the time.
Be as brief.
We will be flexible, but
And
there's
before
3 other people I'm sure wish to speak. We'd all like to get home before tea time.
I know. Well, before my 20 minutes start, can I just on Mr. Spriggs? We deal with a lot of licensing authorities, and we also deal with Herefordshire. I was a volunteer. I was a brief and died. I mentioned it to my 2 colleagues, and if they were here, they would also be passing on their condolences to Mr. Spriggs' family. So,
yes, he was a very valued member of the team.
I'm going to deal with this in this way. The history of the site, the way the site has developed, the investment, and the issue gets to the core of the issue. And there are some points to be raised around the structure of domes and the cladding of the domes.
Yes, if you could concentrate on those, please.
I'm going to ask my Mr. Bayliss, who is the one of the sound experts that we have on board, to deal with that specifically. But you have a statement from Mr. Johnson. You have some outline submissions that we have provided. We've provided some supplementary submissions, which Mr. Moore. I just want to set this whole thing in context. The site was developed in the 1990s as part of the government's Rural Enterprise Scheme. And the Rural Enterprise Scheme had 3 objectives: to enable farmers to be less dependent on subsidy, to increase rural employment, and to bring people to rural communities. And it's fair to say that Outgrass has achieved all of those objectives. The site opened in August 2000. It brings a significant number of people to Herefordshire each year. We spend time and money in the local community and in the local economy. And the site has a gold award for green tourism. It provides significant employment during the spring and summer months, and also employment during those seasons. There has been significant investment over the last 20 years, to the level of about £500,000. And when people say that the nature, well, has been an intensification of use of this site, or the nature of the site has changed, the other way to put that is that it has been successful, and the operation has been a successful one, and yes, it has developed. There are no conditions on the current licence that limit the number of events that can be held each year, but we are proposing that those will be limited, and I'll come on to that in a moment. And it not only meets the objectives of the Rural Enterprise Scheme, but it's in line with your own licensing policy, which acknowledges the contribution that hospitality makes to the local community and the social infrastructure. It promotes live music for cultural benefits, and it promotes the entrepreneurial spirit, the development of festivals, events, community-led initiatives in rural settings. And you find that in your council plan and your council strategy and cultural strategy. That's the background. I have rather rushed over that, but it is an important context of what we are talking about. We are concerned here with one licensing objective, which is the prevention of public nuisance, and your officer read at the outset the steps that you can take to address the licensing review. And I don't think anybody is suggesting suspension or a revocation or the removal of any licensable activities or the removal of the DPS. It's about the modification of the conditions, and I will come to that. But Mr. Johnson acknowledges that he is in a noise sensitive area, and that is at page 186 of your report, and the potential impact that noise can have on the local community. And as a consequence of that, you're left possibly with the impression that my client does nothing in these matters rather glibly, and that's simply not the case. He's engaged 3, possibly 4 noise consultants who all work with him, who are experienced, and their background is set out in the tables that you've got in front of you. In conjunction with noise consultants, noise levels are set. They carry out noise checks locally. They take remedial action as necessary. And you may also be given the impression that we don't respond to requests to meet or to change things that we do. In August, in early September last year, our noise consultant wrote to the licensing authority to say, can we meet with you to agree noise monitoring points in advance of an event in early September. There was no response to that. We carried out our noise tests, as did the local authority. We shared our noise, my understanding is that we shared our noise readings with the authority, and we didn't get any noise readings back from the authority, even though they had carried out those themselves. So we are working with the authority to make improvements, and the investment in the site, as you will have seen when you visited yesterday, and I hope that you found that instructive, demonstrates that there is further investment that is taking place. And Ms. Loughlin wrote to my clients following the meeting on the 30th of July last year that she said, and this is at page 333 of the report, the meeting provided us with reassurance that you are taking noise issues seriously, and that is absolutely right. And so what we have done as part of the papers that we provided to the authority is that we have provided you with a noise management action plan, and that's at page 225 of the report. Work has started, or work on that action plan actually started and predates the review application. That started in 2025. We are soundproofing the main dome, and Mr. Bayliss is going to put more meat on those particular bones. We've increased the straw bale barriers. We've upgraded the sound system. There will be pre-season sound system test days to which the Environmental Health Officer will be invited. There will be a designated hotline with email and phone to be provided. And if phones have not been answered, then I've urged upon my clients and Claire Kelly will be the owner of the phone. It will be monitored. There's no point in having a hotline if it's not monitored during the day, because all your consequences of that. There is an in-house sound engineer at all events. There is an upgrade of the sound check equipment, and there is going to be soundproofing of the second dome. Work will be ongoing, and as you saw, it's happening now. There is going to be a noise management plan that will have input from acknowledged experts in the sector, people who are appropriately qualified, and that's drafted at page 233. And there is a noise monitoring policy and procedure, and that is at page 241 of the report. The important thing about all of these documents is that they're living documents. So if there is criticism that at the moment they are not sufficient enough, there is work to be done on those. Work will be done. They get passed to your Environmental Health Officer. She makes observations and comments on those, and then we reach a position where everybody is happy. And so your Environmental Health Officer and the council have oversight on those documents. Now, insofar as the complaints are concerned, I'm not going to focus on the complaints that go back to 2001. I'm going to focus on the 4 events in 2025, which are addressed in the statement of Mr. Johnson at page 188 of your report. There are historic complaints within the documents. There's a noise abatement notice in 2001. There's a suggestion of a noise abatement notice in 2015. It would have been open to the authority to bring review proceedings back at that time, but they didn't, and so those are historic. There are current noise abatement notice proceedings going on, and they should not inform the decision that you make today, because they look at very different tests. You're looking at public prevention of public nuisance, and the abatement notices look at statutory nuisance. And there's been an appeal to the abatement notices. That is before the court later in this month, and then there will be a trial at some point later on in the year. But sorry, I just need to. I put my phone on because I wanted to check something. I should have turned it off before I started. So yeah, I do apologise. Sorry. Insofar as the 4 events, there are 4 events that are referred to in the review application. You'll see the review application in your papers. But if I just take you through the 4 events that are the subject of this review process. On the 20th of July last year, sound monitoring was carried out by my client. The event ended at 1 AM, and it's fair to say that post the event, when my clients went to their beds, there was another noise generator within the local area, and I asked you to look at where those are, that went on way beyond when my clients were, the event at their site had finished. Now, we are not saying that each and every event or the noise from each and every complaint, it may not be generated by us, but we are doing our level best to promote the objective of the prevention of public nuisance. Insofar as the event on the 26th of July is concerned, there was a post-event meeting which Ms. Loughlin referred to, and at that time the Environmental Health Officer said, Josh Greaves, this is what Mr. Johnson says, agreed with me that there was no audible music anywhere near the venue, but when he drove half a kilometre east, you can distinctly hear someone speaking over a PA, and then refers to other events nearby.
Excuse me.
The complaint on the 30th of August, we were closed, but yet we're being blamed for the generation. And then, insofar as the event on the 5th of September, we sought to engage with the council in advance of that. We provided noise monitoring information to the council post the event, but we haven't received the council's own tests until more recently. I don't want you to be left with the impression that my clients don't take noise monitoring seriously. They invest very heavily, not just in people, but also in the equipment, and that is continuing. It will continue through the next season of events that are taking place. I'm not going to deal with the comments that have been made today in relation to the representations, because we've addressed those in the statement of Mr. Johnson, and there's always sometimes a danger that this can turn into a spat. I would say to Mr. Moorhead that insofar as he is concerned, that if his father has contacted Mr. Johnson, we don't have a record of that. So I can only apologise that his father there was no response made to his father. Insofar as Mr. Ellis is concerned, yes, of course, there have been a number of engagements with Mr. Ellis, and as a consequence of those, a number of changes have been made. We've changed the sound system, the direction of the sound system away from his home. We've carried out sound checks outside his property, and an event has been stopped for a period of 3 hours when he has had a viewing at his property. So we are doing our best to try and engage with the local community when it comes to that. The assessment, and Mr. Moorhead picked up on this when he made his presentation. The purpose of the assessment of the complaints, the 28 complaints that have been received over the last 10 years. The purpose of that is simply to demonstrate to you that a number of complaints have been made to the authorities and we are shut. And so that any noise that is generated in this valley appears to be laid at our door when we are not actually operating. Yes, there are some complaints that are made when we are open, but I would make three things about complaints. Firstly is that they are complaints. Secondly, they're not evidence of a breach of a condition. And thirdly, they're not evidence of a failure to promote a licensing objective. There are a number of representations that have been made in support of the application. And of course, the observation has been made that a number of those are from people who have attended events at the site. And of course, I accept that. There are, however, also 5 representations from local residents or people who live locally to the site. And those can be found on pages 67, 71 and 72, page 80, page 105, and pages 124, and page 125. And so the application is not without its support, or the premises are not without the support from the local community. And what the other letters do demonstrate is that actually these are well-run premises. And the fact that, and whilst the police's primary responsibilities in relation to crime and disorder, the fact that the police have not made a representation is not itself evidence of well-run and well-managed premises. And the fact that not once in the course of 25 years has my client had to phone the police up, again, is evidence that these are well-run and well-managed premises. And that goes across all of the licensing objectives. It just doesn't stop at the door of crime and disorder. And I would defy you to find any other premise within Herefordshire where there has not been at least one engagement with the police over the last 25 years. So insofar as the solution is concerned, we sent through to you some conditions. I'm hoping that we just have those. Send it to you on, I think it was Thursday, Mr. Whitland, document that says X-Class Woodland Farms paid operating facility, and the first page is for out the provision of licensed activity. And I'm going to take you through these and then I'm going to stop. So if you can just bear with me whilst I take you through the proposals. And then
we have got them. We have seen them. So
I do want to make some observations because there are some comments that have been made about, because Ms. Loughlin has made some observations about.
We don't need to go through them page by page.
No, I'm not going to go through each and every one.
No, because we haven't got them here.
But the first thing is on page 1, the as for the provision of licensed activities, sale of alcohol, live music. At the present time, live music and recorded music is permitted both indoors and outdoors until 2 in the morning, Friday and Saturday, until midnight on Thursdays and Sundays. So live and recorded music outside is to end no later than 2300. So that's a further concession that we will add to that.
Which days?
So the days of licensable activities are limited to Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
That's right.
Right.
So
item 7 on the thing that I've got here.
And
you're suggesting
that any music outside ends no later than 11 o'clock at night. So that's an additional. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any music outside, so that's outside of the
outside of the
don't count as indoor.
Yes, it's fine.
But not in the dome.
Yeah. Well, I'm just checking. I'm looking at the right page of the amendment on this page. I've got that one. Is that?
Yeah, and then if you go over the page,
over the page, then it goes into events for less than.
That's printed a bit differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
So outdoors, the hours that are on there are for outdoors, but within, sorry, the hours on there are for indoors, and then outdoors would end no later than 11 o'clock.
On every day.
on every day that we are providing licensable activity. The license currently permits us to provide licensable activities on 7 days a week, but we are limiting those to 4 days.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday.
Correct. And it may be something of little consequence, but the current license has non-standard timings and those can be deleted or removed. And then if you look at the conditions over the page general,
Page 8.
the capacity of the premises, inclusive of all staff and members, should be no more than 500 people.
Lots.
Well, we'll come on to that in a moment.
It's very rare.
And the number of days on which regulated entertainment can be provided under the license should be no more than, we've suggested, 45 days. And we are content to reduce that to 40 days.
So you're getting 40.
And so that condition will now read: the total number of days on which not licensable activities, regulated entertainment can be provided under the license shall be no more than 40 in the course of a calendar year. And there is Ms. Loughlin and I are at odds on that figure. And I'll explain to you why we have asked for 40. Anything less kills the business. And there are fixed costs that need to be serviced. And there is a crew that works on the site over the summer that if they do not have sufficient events to work on, they will go elsewhere. And so it makes it very difficult to have staff. And when I say 40, I know that you'll have had lawyers before you as a committee and they will say, well, 40 actually means 30. Can negotiate down, but the position here is that 40 is 40, and we've already reduced it from an unlimited number of days a year to 45 to 40. And what Ms. Loughlin has said as well, if you have 20 events, then you can supplement those 20 events by making applications for temporary event notices. And that unfortunately puts you as an authority in a worse position, because temporary event notices are not subject to any conditions whatsoever. So you are better protected, as is the Environmental Health Officer, as are the local residents, by having a higher number rather than the lower number. And the point about the 10s is, of course, it gives the council, the Environmental Health Officer, the opportunity to object, and it takes away the certainty. Insofar as the prevention of public nuisance is concerned, we have set out at conditions 9 through to 20. Yes, public nuisance is a totality of 9 through to 26, and the suggested conditions that you attach to the licence. And what Ms. Loughlin has requested are conditions that make reference to audibility and sound being discernible off-site. And the clip, one of the clips that we listened to, actually helps demonstrate why that is not helpful and have a condition like that on the licence. The first thing is that the test here is not audibility or discernibility, or whether something is discernible. The test is public nuisance. And so there is a condition on the licence at condition 9 that specifically says that noise or vibration shall not emanate from the premises so as to cause a public nuisance. If you think about audibility or discernibility, the fourth clip that we heard, which was taken as a gated premises, which is why I made the point I did, is that sound is both audible and discernible, but is not causing a public nuisance. And so that is why we believe that the conditions that we have proposed are the appropriate conditions to be attached to the licence. We have retained the conditions insofar as they relate to crime and disorder that are on the licence. And we've also retained the conditions insofar as they relate to public safety. We've retained the condition insofar as it relates to first aid. And then we've also retained the condition in relation to electrical wiring and structures. Although I would invite you to remove those, because the national guidance suggests that not be replicated on the licence conditions that are dealt with in other legislation.
Which numbers are those?
That's conditions 32 and 30.
33 and 4.
Yes, 32, 33 and 34.
It's a good question. And some of those conditions might need consultation. Those changes might need consultation.
They won't need consultation because they're on the existing licence and they've been replicated in the existing licence.
We haven't considered those in our assessing this application.
No to comment.
And the protection of children from harm is exactly the same. Yeah, I've been more than 20 minutes. You've been very generous with my time. But I'm just going to ask Mr. Bailiffs or Claire Kelly just to deal with a very specific issue about cladding of the day, because I think that's it's probably the it's an issue. Cladding of the domes is a query about why we're only cladding half the dome and not the top bit, and also the control of the base bit. So can I?
Well, before you pass on, Mr. McGregor, could I just ask one to? You said that you contacted the local rent. Well, I would have to say they don't seem to feel that they have been properly consulted or contacted. You did mention something about test days of the sound before you actually started.
Yeah. Yes.
Started the concerts or whatever phrase of music performances.
Yeah.
So you're proposing to have test days of the sound remediation measures before you actually
before the first event this summer is the late May bank holiday, which is the 23rd of May. And the proposal is we will be required to get the noise management plan to your officer 4 weeks before that date. She then has an opportunity to consider it and to make comments, suggestions made. We then carry out some testing in, I think it's going to be proposed to be in early May. At which stage, with your officer, noise management, test points will be agreed, where the noise sort of checkpoints will be agreed about quickly at the site. And hopefully at which stage we can agree noise levels.
Right.
But that is all going to happen before the first event.
Before the first event takes place.
Yes. Can I just ask a question there? What are the timings for those tests? Is that going to be an evening test? Because obviously the noise level transmission changes day and night.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And one which will be answered as you're asking the questions that you're they will deal with that. But I think the purpose of any test is that it's got to try and replicate what goes on in the room.
Yes.
I think
that's what we're after.
Yeah, quick answer on that. It's part of the action plan. I think I detailed it in there. Is I put it across 2 different days, and we've also got another test day if those 2 days, so that we can test various weather as well. So we've got these 2 days set up, but if there's similar weather conditions, then we'll probably pick another test day that will vary the weather conditions and the hours of those tests.
So you'll do your best to replicate a real situation.
Yeah. We've also got all 4 sound engineers there. We'll be doing amendments on the wooden structure that you saw. That is not completed. There are certain dead areas to do with we've got 50 hertz test in there the other day, and we've identified that will affect sound in different ways. So it's to do the insulation, the path of sound, to test the sound systems, to test the desk and set presets for the base level frequencies dropping per hour. So we'll have presets which Andy will go into. And it's also to test the sound check areas. Before this, we weren't aware, I certainly wasn't aware of a lot of other areas that we should have been checking. We were checking mainly up towards John Ellis's and towards Bromley Yard Road. So we're going to use this to push the system a little bit during our licence hours so that we are within our licensing, and to set our sound check external to the venue. So we'll basically go every 10 metres around the periphery and set limits and set checks for the rest of the year.
Well, it's your turn. Do you have anything more you would like to add?
Not unless you have any questions. I just wanted to just say before Andy, it's Coppit Audio that are doing the main work and testing on this cladding. I was just trying to get the information of the test system that they use. They use a virtual testing system. Andy might say it in better technicality than me. It is very much at its first setup, and the testing is going on to be then completed by the test day with any amendments, and I'll pass on to Andy.
The system that's been put in place with the 18 mil ply is basically replicating the model that was tested, that was shown to have
What you're saying, it's tried and tested.
Yes, and it's under current testing. Until we put the cladding up 2 weeks ago, we couldn't do tests. We only had a virtual test. We have virtual test results, which we can send to anybody who needs them. And this is the physical version of it, which we are now testing. The first test started last week, and the tests will go all the way up to the test day. And on the test day, we plan to have it down.
Right.
No, the basis, no, we've been talking a lot about sort of base impact from the site. The nature of bass music from any one speaker is that it propagates in all directions. So what we're looking at with the cladding and changing how the speakers are configured is to basically make that a much more directional impact that is controlled by physical.
I think Ms Lockwood said that she didn't feel that the cladding would be, the plywood you're putting in would be very successful. Do you, what are your views on that?
I think that's twofold. One is that it's not just about stopping sub-frequencies with that material. By introducing cladding, you're reducing the overall loss of sound from the structure, and that allows basically the system to be run at lower levels. So if you're not losing high frequencies through the material, you're keeping those much more localized. System levels overall can be kept lower, and that obviously affects positively this sort of off-site propagation.
Did you say this over the top is not going to be clad? And if not, why not?
The directionality of the sound is the sort of primary. What sound goes up, is having much less impact over
On the basis that the centre travels straight lines.
Yeah.
What goes up is not relevant.
It's part of the picture, but it's the much more significant impact is the sound that is already travelling in the sort of direction of the sort of affected properties.
Yeah. The majority of complaints have come from behind the source of the sounds. Have the changes that you've made to the domes and the behind the stage and so on, have they mitigated that?
Will they mitigate it?
That
will be mitigated.
Plan is that it will be mitigated. I mean, part of what we're proposing with the subs is that pattern that they create is creating cancellation zones behind, which will most definitely have a beneficial impact.
Can I just add a little bit to that? Obviously, Andy's speaking for Coppice Audio. I'm aware of some of the Coppice Audio work because we've sat for hours and hours with me in front of computer screens and these digital replications. So the reason for not doing the top is there's a few different reasons. It was necessity. At the moment, we believe that we can clad it up to where it is. We can buy more ply. This is all to do with testing. We're very much at the first part of testing. We know that bass can't leave the venue this year. So whatever that we get to at the end of the test day, whether that means that we just turn the volume down because we've tried everything else and the cladding didn't work, that's what we'll do. Hopefully, what we're hoping to do is that the volume you felt it in there yesterday, you walked in there, you could hear the echo around you. It's very different to what it was before that cladding went up. It's obvious to somebody that isn't even an expert that if you play a speaker, which we did, our mini rigs are there while we're building, it's loud in the venue. It creates such a loud venue that we can turn the overall volume down. And if it, like Elizabeth said, that may be correct. If we put the same level speaker in there and we put cladding up, might not make a big difference. The point is the audibility of it for the people in the room. If we can turn the whole thing down, I think one of you asked, will it not make it quieter outside? It will. People won't be dancing down the field like they used to, but that is not our priority anymore. Noise management in.
Inside the dome?
Yes.
Presume some people will want to be inside.
Yes.
it surely will be intolerably loud in there, but that's their problem, isn't it?
No, our priority is always to have our speakers at a level where children can be around. You don't push our bass levels. I know that that's hard to believe with all the complaints, but we do not. I've taken multiple phone calls at the back with Andy there. The bass is escaping because of the typography, because of the bowl, and because bass moves like water. These are gigantic waves. If we can turn that volume right down till it's audible and comfortable in that dome, it will be
How many
quieter.
people can be on the dome then during the performance?
Anywhere between 20 and 80, I would say, in that dome. That's filling in and out. Yeah.
You would just think you could get very, very crowded in
The
there.
more that you have people absorb sound.
Yes, they do.
So the overall volumes that I take when I'm doing my sound checks, I do them at the desk and then I do it behind the dome. So that you can tell. So like the overall volume, again, when I'm taking my sound checks with my decibel meter, are based on the fact that the volume might be up, but the people are absorbing it. It's little to do with the desk. Me and Andy work together on radios to try and work out what that is. So what is on the desk might not then relate to what is on my sound monitor. The sound monitor is the Bible. And also the reason for the top is health and safety. The heat of the dome is going to get very warm as well. Also, you didn't see because we left it off and it's not been finished yet. We do apologise. It's also cladded in fabric. So there might be some amendments on that because there's dead zones at the moment. We might be adding some like concave structures onto that wood. We might then add foam or something to soften the sound in there. Like I say, this has all been tested digitally and virtually, and now we're going through the physical testing. And if we get to the end of that sound check day, we have to just turn it down because nothing worked, that's what we'll do.
Thank you. And could I just clarify too, that when you're up and running, that you, well, probably you, I suppose, somebody will be on the end of a telephone to deal with any.
I think,
Yeah.
but the CAD player would.
Yes.
Yes, I work till 2 AM. I zip up the domes at the end of the night. I'm sober all of the time. My the Outgrass number right now is directed to my mobile and shall be. If you rang it now, it's me.
She may not answer it though.
No, I'm in a meeting. Apologise.
Well, Mr. Bayliss, have you anything further to add on the?
I think the other sort of main control is also the sort of the digital sort of presets. Because as technology improves, we've got the ability to have different presets for different times of the day, so that, you know, baked into the system, we can have lower bass levels that can be sort of implemented in a sort of a matter of
And you
seconds.
will be submitting a noise management plan.
Oh, that will be with the authority at least.
Yes.
In a sort of one sentence answer, after all the improvements and developments that you're finished, what will the readings be like compared to the ones that were achieved?
We can't tell you that until we test it, and I refuse to be. Less because of just an untrained ear can hear when you stand in that dome and you shout, but you want to shout a bit quieter. So we'll have to turn the volume down in there.
Well, thank you. Well, Mr. Johnson, you sat there quietly. Do you wish to say add something?
About complainants of the television, Mr. Ellis and I have spoken many times. We put that on one side. I've had 4 phone calls in 14 years from 4, apart from him and 3 others. The other 3 I've only spoken to once. Mr. Moorhead rang me on the very last day that I was open. When I went back to him afterwards, as I do when anybody complains, to say, I'm very sorry. Are you okay with my business? He assured me that he was. When I went to ask him for a letter of support for this committee, that was the first time I knew he had actually written to the Environmental Health in 2023. I was totally unaware that I was disturbing him. So yes, it's very important to me that I don't disturb my neighbours. I've never played music to disturb anybody intentionally ever, and I will not rest until now. The great thing about this for me is I now know who my complainants are, and now I can try to work with them this summer to alleviate any problems, and that is my intention.
Thank you.
Committee, any questions?
I would like to make an observation. You said there was no complete police issues, concerns.
Yeah.
the being as we're predominantly here talking about a noise complaints, police will not get involved with noise complaints, and they'll just direct everybody to the Environmental Agency. And I just wanted to clear that point up. I think it's quite important. So it wouldn't really be a police issue in the first place anyhow. Secondly, has the design, the layout of the location changed at all? As in, you know, I know you've got your domes fixed there. Sometimes the noise coming back up the valley would be seem to be, I wouldn't say unreasonable, but not what I expect. I expect to go down towards the oak tree and down the field, the direction of the noise. And for it to go back up seems a bit strange. And that's just possibly just the level of it.
Sorry, oh, you mean that it is going back up? No, it's not changed, have it?
I didn't know whether you'd changed the layout. I mean, obviously you've got the second dome going in, which was there previously anyhow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the same location.
Yeah, it's been there a while.
But I didn't know whether anything else had physically changed since the complaints of last year.
I think where Britain goes against me, I've got 4 sound engineers, and this guy is amazing. He really is. We work very hard on this. One of the things that does go against us is wind. If it's raining, they'll hear nothing.
Weather.
If the wind is coming from the north, they'll hear nothing. When unfortunately the wind in this country comes predominantly from the southwest, and that I acknowledge is a problem. It's
Yeah.
it literally carries the sound.
Yeah.
Mr. Davis, did you want to?
Well, I think Scotland wanted a quick comment, and then I can ask my question.
Sorry, I just wanted to draw attention to our request to consider a 2-level type of entertainment, because we haven't really discussed this here. That we're thinking that could the licensing distinguish between the occasional larger event where noise would be more audible to a set time, and then the rest of the events would be managed to a much lower level, and it's about the frequency of that impact. So every weekend, so if it was only twice a year where the bigger impact was, you know, that fits in with normal licensing, you know, occasional entertainments that we have in the county, but all the others should be classed as, you know, equivalent to wedding venues or other venues where their noise impact has to be much more strictly controlled. And the more events you have, so the request for 40 days, the more you have, the stricter and the quieter those events are going to have to be to not cause a statutory nuisance or a public nuisance.
So what you're asking for is an agreement that there are two different levels. One is a sort of higher level event, what is the phrase?
Yes, well, it's like a larger impact sort of. So that fits in with the past entertainments that was there originally, which there's 2 larger events, which is a community asset, because I think they're ticketed, some of those are. So there's that element, but then the rest are more private engagements that are for as an event venue hire.
Can I, there's a question that each of you have asked that I would like to just clarify, but I'm going to be, I promise you I'll be quick. You're laughing because you've heard lawyers say that before. The number of events, you raised a query about the capacity of 500. There's a proposed condition, the number of events where the capacity is more than 300 people and should be no more than 5 in any calendar year. So that limits that number to 5, and then all the other events would be somewhere between 0 and 300. It might be 80, it might be 100, it may be
2 parties of 150.
Councillor Hamblin asked about what the improvements, what we thought the decibel improvements would be, and the observation I think was made. I wasn't on the site visit, that the cladding would reduce sound levels by approximately 15 decibel. And then, Mr. Davis, you're absolutely right. The police don't get involved in noise. I thought I tried to make that clear, but I didn't. But I think the point I was trying to make, and it may have got lost in everything, is that the fact that they don't get involved at all, not necessarily noise, is evidence of well managed premises. But you're absolutely right. Is that the police will be very quick to pass noise issues on to. So I apologise for that. And then the last bit, sorry, is that Ms. Loughlin has asked for a differentiation. If you look at between large and other events, and you can call them what you like. When we talk about large events, it's a capacity of no more than 500, so it's a larger event than the smaller event. The noise management plan shall contain, and this is condition 12, the noise management plan shall contain but not be limited to the following: differentiate between large and other events. So there is specific provision within the noise management plan that the larger events, or the more noise sensitive events, will be specifically addressed in the noise management plan.
This allied to the question I was going to ask. We've got a proposal of 40 days of regulated entertainment.
Yeah.
I think the size of the event in terms of people attending is not necessarily the relevant point. The relevant point is the noise that emanates from the premises at any event.
I agree with you.
Right.
I think the number is almost irrelevant.
Yes.
It's the noise I think we're seeking to address.
Not the numbers, they're not in query.
In terms of the 40 days of regulated entertainment, what is envisaged in those 40 days? Are all those events, if within the license, would they go to 2 AM playing music, or are there? And I think this point goes to the difference between events. So you have the larger scale events, which may happen over multiple days, what I would describe as a festival event, which may seek to have hours on a Friday and Saturday, play music until 2 AM. However, are there events within that 40 days that wouldn't necessarily be on that scale, that would finish earlier, that can be conditioned to finish earlier, to mitigate the noise at that point? Therefore, it ties in with the 5 in the calendar year, that perhaps the longer, larger scale music events, but the smaller private paying events, is there a difference there that may affect the conditions, or could be conditioned?
You suggested a larger impact event,
Larger impact,
not necessarily mentioning a number.
No, just larger impact.
I think
if you can call them larger events, and call them larger impact events. I don't think it's and I'm not sort of listening to comment that the contributions be made, but if within the noise management plan there is a differentiation between larger impact events and regular or general impact events, I'm happy with that, because we'll make sure that the license, the noise management plan does that. In terms of I mean, what you're suggesting is a reduction in hours on Friday and Saturday, in short.
Potentially for certain events, you've got so there'd be for the larger, more community-based events, there would be the longer hours.
The longer,
the more frequent, such smaller events, maybe parties or weddings or what have you, would finish at an earlier time than the larger scale events, which creates a balance potentially with the community.
I get that, and it's not until about 5 minutes ago, it's not a question that's been asked of us. I'm not saying it's inappropriate to ask it now, but because when we were discussing with Scotland about the hours, well, we've reduced the days and we've kept the hours the same, and we're excluding that. I can't give you, if you're looking for a number, a number, I'm not sure I can give you that. But the point is that at the moment, is that as with probably most licensed premises in the country, is that they don't sweat the asset till the terminal area on every day that they're permitted. It's on a people want to be there till 2 and you're allowed them to be there till 2, you will do it till 2. Some of the events that we've been holding in the last year have finished at 1 or 1:30. But if you're looking for a number, I can't give you that, I'm afraid. But suffice it to say that there are already events that finish within the licence hours.
Could I just say a couple of words on that?
Yes.
A little bit of the issue I had with this, trying to sit down with Elizabeth and come up with something that worked for both of us, is a diversity of the kind of events that we have and the way that they come into us. We don't know when inquiries come in whether they're going to be 1, 2, 3 day events. As we start doing the planning with them, it becomes clear. For example, the example I gave is imagine a 2-night wedding. Saturday's the big party. Friday could perhaps not be coming under one of our licensable events, but then on Friday 2 weeks before, somebody wants to put their sister on who plays guitar, and then that is then eating into one of our events. We're not using the entirety of our license. For example, another quick example is we have a pagan gathering, so it's called Egg UK. They don't really play any amplified music, but they like to drum. So I would still want to cover ourselves by putting that under one of our entertainment days to ensure that we are still putting in the same proper conditions and sound controls on one of those days. What I don't want to do is then restrict ourselves where we don't have the capacity to take those diverse kind of bookings, or we then tell somebody they can't have their sister on for 2 hours. Our priority is keeping that silent and not getting complaints. And the way I feel, like this might be wrong, is that we should be self-defining what are our high risk events, because our noise management plan is for us to ensure that we aren't a public nuisance. And if we could have a noise management plan that shows high risk events, or that we can rate our events, we're very up for that. But to give a number restricts our management of our events in a way that would prevent public nuisance. So I would rather enable myself to have myself manage that, and if there are problems, then we'll end up in this situation again. But if there's proper management, which I hope there to be, then I don't see the days being anything but restrictive on how we manage our calendar.
Yeah, it's not up to us to run your business for you, basically. We do take that on board.
Yes, but we do have to listen to the local people who complain,
of course,
over the years about unacceptable noise levels.
Of course.
Right.
One more question.
All right.
I think one more. When you talk about you've upgraded your sound system, how does that assist the mitigation of noise emanating from the premises?
The better quality of the system, the easier it is to hear what's being produced on it, and generally the lower the volume of the overall system. In old, like 90s PAs, were very inefficient. You get lots of resonant frequencies through the boxes, so to get clarity you kept having to sort of push the levels up. New technology, new speaker efficiencies, better quality of audio allows lower sound levels to still be effective entertainment.
Yeah. These are also short throw systems. We changed our system over to a short throw systems a number of years ago, which means that these systems literally makes music go less far.
And we're also looking at speaker deployments and improving where the speakers are positioned so that they have maximum impact on the audience, but are minimising their sort of flow direction.
Minimising the spread of noise outside. Yeah. Right. Any more questions? No.
I do have one for the chair, if you don't mind.
Mr. Davis.
On your noise management plan, you have as your last couple of items, complaints management and review and revision data.
Yeah.
With respect to that, would you be sharing that information with the Environment Agency, purely because they will, if they receive complaints, they might not be able to react immediately to a complaint because they don't work 24/7. So therefore, if you receive complaints and you react to that and it's all documented, then you share that with your review and revision afterwards with them. Then they can then turn around and say, well, hang on a sec, residents are saying X, Y, Z. You're saying you've done this, and then they can sort of mediate and maybe.
If you look at Unit 18, premises license holder will maintain one thing on free amplified music entertainment events. This will be kept on the license site and will be available at all times for inspection by others. So I think that answers your.
Yeah, well, it was more to do with actually the post-event reviews. If you receive complaints of noise, then if that's shared,
yes,
that would be more beneficial than just retaining it yourselves.
Yeah.
Just on that, communication is key. I'm the new events manager here. I've run many venues in Manchester, much bigger city. All my life I've run events. Communication is key. I have now got a lot of information. I didn't have an events manager, and for me, this year's priority is logging everything and ensuring that the communication between us is paramount.
So could I just clarify that environmental health here as a regulatory enforcement role rather than a consultant advisory? We're not here to help manage and monitor the businesses' noise levels. We're here to ensure that the licensing conditions and such nuisance being.
I was thinking more along the lines of, sorry, if you receive complaints in the future, then if you have the backup of information as well, then it'll help you maybe get a clearer picture.
At that stage, you're absolutely right, and we will share that information with It's a two-way street, if you like. And it's important that complaints are made about noise that is suggested is emanating from others, that we're told as quickly as possible, rather than something, because you need to know then, rather than, as you said, a year, a month, whatever.
Yeah, having that point of contact is key in these events. So the mobile phone number for residents to be able to phone that number, know they're going to get a response. That's not just going to fob them off and say, sorry, nothing we can do. It's not us. It potentially could happen if you're not running an event that weekend and there is noise, then that will, you know, at least help the residents understand that you weren't doing something and it's somebody else.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Right, well, thank you all very much. We will now adjourn to discuss our recommendations. If you'd like to come back, we'll say it's now 12 o'clock, good heavens. Come back at 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. It might be quicker, but I.
It's going out.
Sorry, Chair, Mr. Moorhead won't be joining us for the decision. I'll update him later.
He said, could you send an email? I think.
We're
Yes,
live, Chair.
Yes,
We're live, Chair.
we're live. Right. Thank you all for coming back. Having carefully considered those matters brought before them and in reaching their decision, the members had full regard to both the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003 as amended by the Violent Crime Reduction Act 2006, the guidance issued under Section 182 and Herefordshire Council's Statement of Licensing Policy. The subcommittee's decision following a review of the premises licence is as follows. The subcommittee considered that the conditions of the premises licence require amendment. Broadly, the subcommittee agreed to 40 days of regulated entertainment and a maximum of five large-stroke high-impact events per calendar year. Due to the complexity of the issues in this case, a full decision notice with a final list of amended conditions and reasons will follow within 5 working days. Thank you all for coming. I will now close the meeting at 1 o'clock. And